Oh, hi guys and girls, Emma again. Welcome back to another episode of this little boiler build. I've been neglecting you a little bit, and I am sorry. It's there's been other stuff going on, and the work I did on that loco took longer than I thought it was going to be honest. I really thought it was something I was going to be into for a couple of weeks, but it didn't happen. So we've got a boiler, and it's been in the pickle all afternoon, so it's nice and shiny and clean. I've got some fittings. This pickle, everyone always asks, no matter how often I tend to say, so I'm going to say it up front. The pickle is basic citric acid from the supermarket, and that answers pretty well for copper. Oh look, it's pretty black evil stuff after the copper's been in it for a bit. I've got this fitting that needs some attention while they're soaking, and we'll give them a bit of a scrub up. Just an old toothbrush or a scrubbing brush of some sort, just to get the black off them and get them nice and shiny. This is the fitting I made last time, little clack valve. It's got a square seat in the bottom of it, and it's got a cap that goes in the top. This is long enough so that there's not a whole lot of travel in here. You don't want a lot of travel. You don't want the cap to have a lot of travel, or the ball to have a lot of travel, because it doesn't seat or drop as well as it should. So ideally you want as much to come out as is going to come out around the hole. You sort of want it. I didn't explain that very well, but it wants a little bit of travel, not too much. So that's something I didn't sort of mention when I was messing around making these. This is stainless steel 532 ball, very easy thing to drop, but if we put that in there, what you're going to find after it's just been made is if you blow in this hole, it's not going to seal particularly well, because you've still got a rough surface in there even though you've run a reamer through it. This little fitting's fairly delicate, so we can't really sit it in the vise to seat it, but it just needs a bit of 3/16 round brass rod. Just like that, with a bit of a countersink in the end to hold the ball. And if we drop the ball in there, we shouldn't mark or dent the stainless one, but if you find it doesn't seal, you might have to use another ball. And sit him on the block of wood there like that. Put that on there, and we're going to give him a tap with a hammer. Won't be a particularly big hammer. Just like that. And we can put this in here with a little bit of joining paste or whatever. We hold it all tight, and hopefully when you blow through here, that should be airtight. Make sure we haven't managed to lose the ball on the floor, and screw this in nice and firm. Give him a wipe. There's messy stuff, but it's kind of effective. And slip him up. You should have a rattly ball in there. And hopefully, under pressure, there shouldn't be too many leaks. So hopefully we've got that sorted. We need to clean up these bushes, and the next job will be to silver solder the bushes into the boiler tube. So we've got another job to do. These two bushes here, if we have a look, it is a bit close, but if we have a look, this bush and this bush are in line, and there's a water gauge goes on these for water height. Now, the two bushes need to be in there nice and parallel with the threads lined up so that you can put the tube in and tighten everything up without cracking it, so the tube slides up and down before you put the top nuts on, and then you don't crack the glass. So we need to make a jig for that. Now when I measured them out, I did this in metric, and this is an imperial starrett ruler, so it's not much good to anyone. This ruler, however, has got millimetres on one side, and we're 60 millimetres apart. So what we need is a couple of nuts to hold these bushes on a piece of flat, 60 millimetres apart, nice and square and parallel, so we can put them together and silver solder them so that nothing moves. So I made up a couple of little plugs. They're 732 by 40, so they're not very big, but that's what thread I've chosen for the bushes. And that bush is on there like that. We're going to do the same with this one. Actually, a tip, I've drilled these holes a little bit oversized, not much, just a little bit, and that way there's some wiggle room to go in the holes, because they'd be better off to be a better fit in the holes in the boiler than in the holes in the alignment plate. And I might have to file that even a little bit more because we're way out. Now someone had a comment about using a file handle in the video that I did, and a couple of people did. In the video I did about making the non-return valve. All my files have got these 3D printed plastic handles on them. I've got if someone wants to make them, I've got the files, let me know. I'll share them with you. But they've all got those, the loose or the smaller files. And have another look at the video, because I was using one of these. So that's all aligned nice and square and straight. That's what we need there. Now, I've had a bit of a go at soldering this, and the mass in this is getting too heavy for my equipment to get to a red hot flame to silver solder. So this is a bit of a problem. I've really had a bit of a go at trying to get it hot enough to do the job, and I've actually got an LPG blow lamp here as well. And I'm going to have another go with it, but I can't get this boiler red hot. No matter how often I try or how long I heat it for, it's just not going to get there with the equipment that I've got. So I'm guessing that around the corner there's some Oxy LPG equipment, some fairly heavy Oxy LPG equipment in my life, especially if we're going to make boilers. This is only a fairly small one compared to the one for Princess Marina. It's not a huge boiler at all, and this I guess would weigh 3/4 kilo, something like that. So it's not a lot of copper compared to the other one, which might weigh 4 or 5 kilos empty. So, well, 3 or 4 anyway. And the trouble is with copper is that it's so conductive that you've got to heat this whole thing to red before the solder will flow around one joint. And that's a bit of a problem. It's okay when we've got a tube, because we can get that hot, and put one plate in it, we can get that hot. Put the other plate in it, we can get it hot. We start putting things like that little dome and a bush in under there for the blow down, things like that. We're getting too much mass and it's just too hot. So I'm going to have to leave this for a bit. At some point in the very near future I'm going to have Oxy LPG equipment, and that will make this job a little bit easier. And probably quite a lot bit cheaper too, so in the long run. So that's where we're at with that. That brings us to our final thing. And this is completely off on a tangent, and it's not something that I had envisaged and put in any video anytime soon. But there's a way that I'm going to sort of put some money aside for some gas and for a boiler, if all things are equal. So I got the castings made. This one's the smoke box. And the wheels. This sort of gives you some idea of the size of it. And it should be a nice little engine. But rather than put that up on YouTube for everyone, I've decided, and it's a huge thing, after a few prompts from viewers and from other people, that I would start a Patreon account. Now, that's a huge thing to do, and I'm not a very big channel, and I don't really expect a whole lot of support, and I certainly don't expect to live on you guys. But little projects like this would be much, much easier with a few dollars every week coming in, and it's not a huge lot. And I don't by any means expect that anyone is going to jump over there and support me for nothing, or put $4 a week in, $4 a month, $1 a week it is basically, into my Patreon account for nothing. So I'm going to do this engine as a series, and I've already started. There's a couple of videos up there already, I think. Well, there is. And if you're interested, jump over, because the introduction video to this series is there for nothing anyway, so it's, anyone can look at it. Check out the link in the description. Click on it, go and have a look, see what you think. Patreon is going to be, for me, probably a video every 2 weeks, and to be honest, probably a construction series ongoing from one to another, rather than jumping about like we do here and never get anything finished. And we have tool builds and mail calls and all sorts of things on YouTube, but on Patreon it's going to be back to back construction. And if anyone's interested in building this alongside, let me know, because there's probably a spare set of castings available, and there's probably some other bits that I can do for you. It's not a particularly expensive little model, and it's fairly easy to get going. There's no threads, hardly any threads in it. There's basic silver soldering, there's some sheet metal work, and there's some pretty basic machining. So anyone's interested, jump over on Patreon and have a look anyway. Have a look at the first video or the intro video. It's well worth a look, I think. And if you're keen in putting down $1 a week, you can drop that off at any time you get sick of me. But I'd really appreciate it, because the proceeds from that are going to go into oxyacetylene or oxy LPG gear for boiler making. At that point, I'm going to say thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe, all that sort of stuff. Go and have a look at my Patreon. Have a look at my Instagram too, if you want a bit more immediate updates on what I'm doing here, and other stuff as well. Instagram's pretty good. Go and check it out. Add me as friends on Facebook too. That's a cool thing to do. There's going to be more soon, and I'm not going to forget this boiler build, but probably the next video will be more fittings, so water gauge and an elbow for the pressure gauge, and probably some fittings for the superheater or the steam dryer in the top and the dome. So there's lots more to do before we do any soldering, and I will get another video up. It probably won't be this weekend, but thanks for watching, guys and girls, and more soon. So at that point, I'm going to say thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe to each other.